can look at this.
I am. Okay, I have you. Do you mind?
Oh, you wanted to?
She was gonna videotape it here.
Oh, you want me back there?
I'm actually doing live on YouTube.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go back.
Thank you.
So acupuncture is a very ancient healthcare modality, and it goes back thousands of years. It was introduced in Europe and North America in the 1800s, and the first U.S. State Practice Act was in 1974 in the U.S. And then now there's 48 states out of 50 states license acupuncture, after Michigan started licensing acupuncturists too. So again, what is acupuncture? So in acupuncture, the health of an individual is determined by a smooth flow of qi. The qi is considered the vital energy. So everything there is energy. Without the energy, we wouldn't have the manifestations that we have today. So acupuncture is a So acupuncture is what we consider energy medicine. It works with the qi, the vital energy of the body. And the Chinese medicine sees disease or illness as a process of energy disharmony. And so we try through acupuncture to rebalance the energy and bring it to a smooth flow. So he's readying the needles there. Acupuncture is the insertion of very thin, sterile, filiform needles. And they go in specific areas of the body that have certain therapeutic properties. And then we hope to achieve some therapeutic effect to help the person. And this is an ancient picture of a person with acupuncture points, depicting some acupuncture points. So energy is embodied in the material world twofold. We call it yin and yang. And it's a combination of the one thing and its opposite. In other words, we can manifest something and we can recognize the manifestation through the existing of an opposite. And these opposites are called yin and yang, and these are opposite energies. They are complementary energies. They are interdependent. In other words, you cannot have yin without having the yang. We talked about that. And so everything is relative. They blend into a seamless whole, so the yin and yang form an entirety. They contribute to balancing each other and rebalancing each other. They generate each other. They can put a damper on each other, and they change within a perfect harmony. So whatever happens, the goal is to have a perfect harmony. There are 5 principles that we recognize about yin and yang. And the first one is yin and yang is everywhere. So everything that you look at has a yin and a yang, at least in the way we manifest on earth. They can be, each one can be divided further into yin and yang. So within yang, we have another yin and yang. Within each yin we have a yin and yang, and it goes all the way down. It never ends. And they can create each other. So within the yang, there's the seed of yin, and within the yin is the seed of yang. So when yang reaches a certain height, the highest of the height, it starts transforming into yin until the yin grows into its highest yin, and then it transforms again into yang. So you can see this as a continuous movement. And as yang grows, certain properties get displayed. And as yang fades and yin grows, different kind of properties get displayed. So we will always have this kind of change between yin and yang. They balance each other and they transform into each other. We talked about that. So here are some examples of yin and yang. So heaven is a manifestation, we consider it manifestation of yang. It's the sun, the light, the fire, the time, energy, activities, when you generate something. So yang is the force that builds, right? It's the active force. The yin is more the force of introspection, introversion, and reception, the receiving energy. Some more examples. Yang is more associated with expansion, the round things, the rising, the above, the east, the south, the left, the male energy. Yin is more contraction, flat, descending, low, west, north, right, and female energy. And then yang is the exterior, yin is the interior, yang is back, yin is front. Can you understand the back without knowing the front? That's
It's
what
not
I
the
mean.
black one.
Yeah, you have to have one and the other to make sense of things. The head and the body, above the waist, below the waist, the function of something versus the structure of something, right? The energy, and then the yin is more the fluid part, is the blood and the body fluids. That's considered yin. Okay, so before we get into this part, I'd like you to fill out this quiz. And this quiz gives us information about your characteristics. And it's an introduction to the next part of the presentation.
My 2 pens. Thank you very much.
Should I bring it from upstairs, downstairs? Do you have extra? Do you need
I don't
one?
think we have another.
I'll take a look. I think I have some in my bag.
May I please?
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take a few minutes to fill this out.
And I got a question. It does have to be just one, or could be more than
No,
one?
just one.
Just one.
Use, answer just one, the one that best describes
Sure.
you.
А где мои?
Okay, so
Ручки.
there's a little bit of suspense here. You'll see
Около
what we'll do
компьютера.
with this once we start talking about the black elements.
Понятно.
Извини, просто видела это.
Очень.
Angelina, so we can do more than one?
No,
Or just one?
just one.
Uh-huh.
That's not easy because I would like to choose a couple of them.
try to see which one gets to you the most. Can you put your name on the paper, because then Laura is gonna tally that up for you.
May I clarify the question because I don't think I understand the question. It was a question. That would be number 12. It's about me or about someone else?
Do you think it would be different
Like,
for you versus others?
for example, like if I have something like me and it's perfect, or if something like June, like with will be big.
Which one is the one that is most difficult for you to deal with? To deal with in you or others? Try to make it more.
Oh, to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay. To deal with. Okay.
Most of it, I don't feel like it reflects on me.
Pardon?
Most of it, I don't feel like it reflects me. I cannot choose from.
You cannot choose?
It's not this and not this and not
Yeah,
this. So
try the best. Like, try
it's
to-
just not me. I
Oh,
just
so you
cannot-
don't want to feel this?
Oh no, I did some, but some of them
Oh,
is
some
just
is the root.
like the last one. It's just like okay. Vibrant hues, no, but candles, yes. Minimalism, yes, but metal, no. Ludicor, no, but what features, yes. So something like that. It's just
Yeah,
No-
I find
no-
the
not-
same thing. Yes,
not in my
combination.
combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put them
And here, maybe harmony, but actually all the above. So it's just
Yeah, I guess it's
some
just
of
the
it,
one
it
that
just
defines you the
doesn't
most.
not
Yeah, you cannot choose. Yeah.
not even close to me. So this is how I
No,
feel.
no, no, that's
Okay.
how
Yeah.
I would choose this and
I
I
know,
heard
this
this
is-
for
And
this.
we say just
Yes.
candle. I said vibrant colors, no. Candles, yes. Ludicor, not, but what the features,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like
Minimalism,
minimalist,
yes,
and what
but
features.
not metal.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
This is just how I feel.
Same.
No choices.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So
some
choose the best you can, and what you cannot,
Yes,
you can.
yes.
If you could just put it.
No, no, put this one.
Whatever comes to mind first, you know, you look at it and say, oh, maybe this.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was interesting. Они трудятся все, абсолютно не страдаем, не переживаем, не понимаем, не стрессуем.
They'll make more sense to you when we go into the presentation deeper. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna put the needles. So everybody wants needles?
Yes.
I do, yes.
Okay.
You wanna show them? Do you want me first? Do you want to show them or do you want me first?
Yeah, I'll show you what I'm doing.
Can you explain what does it mean we will put needles and why you would like to do that?
Only if you want to experience a little acupuncture. That's the reason I'm saying that. Because I'm an acupuncturist, I do needles.
Yes, I had
And so
interest
I'm talking about acupuncture. So I thought I'd give you a sample of what it is like to put a needle in somebody. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, you don't
No,
have to.
it's like I want, but I want to know what to
Oh,
expect.
so what I'm doing is I'm putting a needle in the third eye here.
Mhm.
It's a very calming needle. It's in sync with what we're doing today. We're talking about how you reach balance, how you reach calmness, how can you heal your internal wounds, right, your emotional wounds. So this is one point that is very good
I'm
for
sorry
relaxation.
I asked it. I'm
No,
sorry if I
that's
interrupted.
fine.
I just wanted to understand for
No, that's a
for
very
myself.
good question. Yeah. So that's the only reason. No other reason, yeah. It also is very therapeutic, so it helps you in a lot.
Своє ім'я для того, щоб потом она знала, кому отдать.
Если больше сегодня в ответ на всех.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. So the needles are sterile, and I only use them once. And after I use them and take them out, then I dispose of them as hazardous waste. So there's no contamination happening between patients. So I'm gonna run just a little down there. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Наконец-то добрались.
Whoever has makeup, let me know. I'm
I
using
have makeup.
And now, like, do we cross our feet when we do
No.
this, or we have to
Yeah,
keep it
just
straight?
Keep them straight.
Like, keep them straight, and then
Yeah,
if we
it's
wanted
better.
to lay down, we can lay down.
So, you want-
You might
Yeah.
feel like it feels kind of like a weight on your forehead. Don't be concerned if you feel that. That's the energy.
It might feel like.
What does it feel?
Sometimes it feels like a weight on your forehead.
Weight?
Like a pressure, yeah.
Okay.
Pressure. Like,
Don't touch it.
No
you'll
touch.
know what I'm talking about when she does it.
No.
No.
I don't know. Just trying. There's no makeup.
Oh, no.
Corinne, you wanted to sit down here?
Oh, I'm okay.
No, you
Thank
good
you.
there.
Would you have makeup?
Мне это много.
Or a bunch of unicorns.
Tatiana,
They are magical.
do we put one for you?
Она записывается?
Yes, please.
Okay. Doing good?
Yes.
Everybody good?
What's the feeling?
Что я волшебная лошадка.
You feel anything different?
I feel a little bit like pressure, but it's a very light, nothing to be scared of. I don't know, we'll see probably like in 10
Let
minutes.
me know if it goes away.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel great. Yeah, no, nothing like. Mhm.
Good. So we're gonna leave them for about half hour at the most.
Okay.
So what time is it now?
12:14.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the 5 elements, because I've told you I studied 5-element acupuncture and all that. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means. So we talked about the energy, how energy is everywhere, and everything has energy. And we talked about yin and yang, how the energy transforms from yang into yin and yin into yang. And as these transformations occur, there are different properties that can be experienced in the world, and different things that can be manifested in the world through these energy transformations. And as energy transforms, we can feel that there are some resonances that happen to what we call the 5 elements. So the 5 elements express and embody the movement and transformation of energy as it constitutes and shapes everything on Earth. And then each element describes a particular phase of the movement of energy. As I mentioned to you, as energy transforms, we can identify different phases, different functionalities, different properties that are being expressed in the world. And then they actually, what we are going to look at is the essence or the spirit of these elements. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So if you look at this drawing, in the middle you see the circle. You probably saw this before. It's the yin-yang circle. The white part represents yang. The black part represents yin. And as you look on this chart, you notice that if we start with water, at this part, this one element, the water, which is the blue element here, you notice the yin is very big at this phase, right? It's the highest of yin, while the yang is the lowest of yang, right? So we're witnessing the actual maturity of yin and the inception of yang, the transformation that starts for yang, right? So when the energy is deeply yin and has a little bit of yang coming on, there are certain characteristics that happen. And these characteristics are sort of equated to water, okay, as an element. We're not saying that water is the element, is what makes this happen. We're saying is that what happens resonates with the water element. Okay? So as yang increases, then there's another element that comes to mind when we look at the characteristics that happen with yang increasing, and that looks a little bit like wood. We'll talk more about these, okay? I'm just introducing the elements. And then as yang matures, if you notice, this is the part of yang that is the highest. Then we have another resonance with an element called fire. So the characteristics of the excess, the fullness of yang are equated to an element called fire. And as I mentioned before, the yin and yang transform into each other. When yang reaches its maximum, its peak, then yin starts to show up again. So yin starts to grow, and the characteristics imparted by that phase are equated to an element called earth. So we're talking about an element called earth. And then as yin matures and grows bigger, then it transforms into an element called metal, which means the characteristics that can be equated to a metal element. And then the whole cycle starts again. We go back to water. So this whole process is a process of how life happens. So Chinese medicine, it looks at the natural laws. How does nature work? What are the laws of nature? What is going on in nature? And the goal is for us to live in sync with nature instead of destroying nature. And when we're in sync with nature, we grow, we do well. When we start impeding nature, we're impeding ourselves too, because we're part of this whole process. So when I say that these characteristics happen, they don't happen just on the outside, they happen within us too. So whatever we see here in terms of the 5 elements, including all the characteristics, we find them in ourselves too, because we're part of nature. They're the foundation and spirit of all nature around us and within us. It'll become more clear as I progress. So as the energy transforms, we're finding that there's a web of interrelationships. It becomes very complex. Everything is connected to everything, and we have a whole that includes all these different parts. So even though we think that we can take this piece out and put it away, or take this out and still be fine, that won't happen, because everything consists and brings and forms a whole. So the minute you chop up things, we're going to miss things. We're going to lose things. We're not going to be in the fullness of nature. And we talked about this before. Everything is shaped by the energy. And everything is in continuous change and transformation. I think this is something we experience every day. We see that. We never wake up to the same day. Especially in Michigan, just wait a little bit and you see the big change in weather. Right? So the way the cycle of life happens is according to these elements. And like the water generates the wood. The wood generates fire. So without water, we cannot have trees grow, right? We need the water to grow trees and vegetation. Without the wood, we may not be able to have a fire, right? Because we need wood to build a fire. As we build the fire, the ashes that form, they create more earth, right? And earth has the ability to contain metal. Without the earth, metal cannot develop, cannot exist. And then metal can shape water, right? Because water is completely amorphous, it has no shape, right? But you have the metal, it can contain the water. So we have a cycle of generation. But then we also have a cycle that controls, each element gets controlled by another element, so that we don't just have this out of control growth, right? We create balance with a cycle that contains the other elements. For example, if you take metal, metal can cut the wood, right? So wood grows and grows and grows, but if you have metal, you can cut it. So it balances the growth of wood. And then water, if you pour water on the fire stops, right? We can control fire that way. And earth can control water, because the more earth we put, the more we deepen down the water, right? And so on. So these two cycles work together so that we maintain the balance. So if we have too much fire and we don't have water, we have California in the LA area, right? It's totally out of control. So we need water to contain the fire.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, in some of the countries, they're like cutting the wood, which is the trees, right?
Mhm.
So how the wood, which is on the five element, reflects on us? Like, is it like on the physical level that we can actually feel that is the trees or the wood is being cutted down because we're the part of the five elements?
I'm not sure what you're asking. Is it do you
That's
do you
a deep
feel
question.
as a human being the fact that the
Very
wood is
deep.
being cut? That's impact the human being?
Correct.
Think about it, nature, right? When we cut more vegetation down, we'll get less oxygen.
I see.
Yeah, it impacts our life. Look what happens in South America, right? Or even in Europe, when some of these countries take advantage of the other less developed countries, and they come and they cut all their wood because they need to use it for construction and whatever.
So
You could see you can actually feel that there's going to be a difference.
okay.
They have to
we just
replant.
had
need
that
to-
conversation on Wednesday
Oh yeah, that's right.
with Olga.
Uh-huh.
We just had the climate change conversation just about that.
Mhm.
Okay, I see. Wow. All right.
Yeah, what it does is it interferes with the natural way of living. Right? It interferes with the natural cycle. It puts a dent into the balance because it's artificially taken down.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
If you take down too much, you affect life. Our life, animal life, any life on earth.
So, and the acupuncture can actually like restructure that balance.
So with the five element acupuncture, that's what we aim for, to rebuild the balance for the elements. But I'll talk about that in 1 second.
Yes.
Okay, so we just talked about this. This is just recapping, right? It shows us the process of dynamic harmony and balance in the entire system of energy, including ourselves. Okay. So with five element acupuncture, the theory behind the five element acupuncture is that very early in life, or maybe even in the womb, some element goes out of balance in the baby or in the fetus. And when that for whatever reason, could be many reasons, right? And that element that goes out of balance has certain characteristics. And so it's impacting the personality of that human being. And it shapes that human being a certain way such that it can lead a certain life. It can actually, we call it a constitutional factor. It's actually determining the constitution of that person. What illnesses it attracts, what events it attracts in life, what kind of career that person chooses, how that person deals with trauma. And so that can be predetermined. And if you remember the previous speaker, it says it's in the subconscious. This is probably in the unconscious. We're not aware of it. We are, usually when we're traumatized, we're not aware of what happened to us. We are expressing the trauma. So the goal is to first become aware. What is that trauma that we're expressing? First, we have to recognize that we're doing something that is not quite normal, right? That we're living in a way that maybe it's a way of a traumatized person. A traumatized person a lot of times doesn't realize that the person is traumatized, right? That he or she is traumatized. We live our life. We think that's how it's supposed to be lived, right? Until something happened and we realize something is not right, something's not working well. And then we become aware that there must be something that maybe we need to explore. And then we become aware, right? Awareness is the first step in being able to go over trauma, get over trauma. We become aware that there's a trauma or something happened. And then we have to find out what it was. A lot of times, in 5 element, maybe yes, maybe no, depends. And then we have to deal with it. There are all sorts of ways of dealing with the awareness of trauma. Right? We have all sorts of professions that deal with that. In my profession, we deal with it through the 5 element acupuncture. But so that's why the 5 elements are really important in a person's life because they shape us. And also the very first one that gets out of balance, imbalance is the entire cycle because if fire is out of balance, earth will be out of balance. If earth is out of balance, metals are out of balance, right? So with 5 element acupuncture, we try to restore balance to that first element that was out of balance, that imparted a certain constitutional factor to the people. So now let's talk a little bit about the characteristics, the broad characteristics of these elements. Okay, so what is water? It moistens, right? It flows downward. The color of water in the 5 elements is blue. It represents the season of winter. So when you look at the season that we're in now, when you see what it manifests and how it manifests, those are characteristics of the water element. It's cold, you want to stay in, you want to go deep within, you just don't have all the energy to go and build all sorts of projects. The feeling that we get from the water element is fear. So fear is associated with the element of water. It also gives us the willpower. It gives us the way for us to actualize our potential. It gives us faith. It gives us capacity to live. The taste is salty, the smell is putrid, and the temperature is cold. And people who have an imbalance in water, they tend to have a groan in their voice. So they talk like this, like Kissinger, they have a groan. So that is usually an indication that something's not right with the water element. the energy of the wood is an upward surge. So it's that kind of energy that a seed brings about to come up and break through the ground and turn into a tree. That enormous upward energy, full of vitality, that just wants to grow. That's the energy of the wood. The color of the element, the way we see it in 5 element, is green, and the season is spring. So when you think of spring, you see a renewal, right? You see that everything's starting to grow. Our energy feels so much better. We want to do things. It's just a total renewal of energy. And the feeling that we have, the emotion is anger. It's like, not anger because you just want to break something. It's that anger that helps us grow, helps us accomplish things. And it's transformative, right? We get the biggest transformations at the beginning of spring. We have a vision. So imagine you have this little seed, you put it in the ground, and the water waters it, and it starts getting its strength, and then it breaks through the ground. And it knows exactly what it becomes, right? So this seed that you put, if it's a seed that grows apple tree, right? It's not going to turn into a peach tree. It has the vision of the apple tree in it. It becomes an apple tree, right? So that's that vision, the planning, the coordination. It coordinates, it plans, it becomes that tree. Has a lot of creativity. It has to know how on earth to do it. Going through all the blockages and resistance it encounters. The taste is sour, the smell is rancid. It's sort of like old oil, that is rancid grease. The season is windy, and the sound is shout. So people who have a very loud voice and shout, it's that they shout at you in a normal way, when they're normal. They may have some wood imbalances.
Gigi, would you like to have another water?
I haven't.
Okay.
So the next element we'll talk about is fire. So fire, if you remember, is the height of yang, right? Yang is big. So yang is the force that manifests, right? It flares up. Everything grows and it reaches maturity during summer. The color is red. The season is summer. Fire, during fire time, during summer, we are joyful, right? That's the natural emotion of fire. If it's out of balance, it's a lack of joy. So when your fire is extinguished, if you put too much water on the fire, you may have lack of joy. It's very conducive to self-expression, to enthusiasm, to passion, to joy, relationships. The taste is bitter. The smell is scorched. It's like burnt wood, right? After you have a fire. The temperature is hot, it's heat. And the sound is laugh. So people who have their fire balanced, they can laugh, they're happy, they're joyful, they live to the maturity that they're getting to. And any questions about the fire?
So is the laugh good?
Pardon?
Is the laughing part good because the shouting, because that's the indication of that they're lacking the fire,
Yeah, if
or they have
shout
too much fire.
And too much fire. If you have too much laugh, or if you laugh at things that are not appropriate to laugh at.
Right.
Let's say I come to you and I say, I had my finger cut off. Can you imagine how funny that is? I mean, that's like the total inappropriateness, right, to the laughing.
Right.
So that means something's wrong with my fire.
Okay.
But
so
if I come to you and say, oh, I heard this tremendous joke and it's so funny and I laugh, that's normal.
that's okay. So it depends on the situation of.
You look for abnormalities.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Or like no laughter would be like a fire imbalance.
No laugh?
Like
lack
no
of laugh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be like an
that's-
imbalance with fire.
That's an imbalanced fire too. Yeah, because normally a fire is upbeat, is happy, is joyful, it reaches maturity, right? So there's no problems yet. So we're at the upswing in the cycle. Right? Now, Earth is when we reap the harvest, right? It's round and round. It's the color is yellow. It's late summer. We have a lot of empathy, contentment. Earth nourishes, right? Nourishes the crops, nourishes us, nourishes everything. They provide stability. You have your feet on the ground. Security. The smell is sweet. I mean, the taste is sweet, the smell is fragrant. It's humid usually in the fall, or early fall. And the voice, the sound is sing. So people who are earth people, they tend to tell stories and they sing them and they talk about them. So you can tell when somebody has the earth element prevalent. They also, earth people tend to give and give and give and not get enough in return because they just give. And then they feel bad because, oh, look, I need something, nobody gives me anything. They give too much to the point where they feel they're out of balance in terms of what they give versus what they get. But they give freely and they want to do that. That's the earth person. And then metal. So the metal is, again, the yin energy starts growing and the yang is getting weaker, right? So the yin energy brings us the characteristics of the inward looking, the introspection, withdrawal, seeking more, seeking answers to your maybe religious questions, faith, you want to know what to believe in. There's a lot of father issues with the metal. It's a downward movement, like we said, the yin is growing. The color is white. It equates to fall and autumn. It's when everything starts falling, right? In the early fall, you start getting colors and you get the harvest. And then in the later fall, everything drops, right? The leaves are falling, everything turns grayish. Everything is not as optimistic as before. We tend to feel a little more down. The feeling is grief. We have sadness. We get inspiration. We have to have endurance to get through this, right? That it's not exactly the heart of summer. We look for meaning. That's a very big characteristic of metal. Think about precious metals, right? They have a lot of meaning that we want to find. We look for self-esteem. The taste is pungent, the smell is rotten, and usually the seasons start getting more dry. And the sound is weak. I was in Germany once, and I was with your mom and Pierre, and we were in a streetcar. And all of a sudden, I hear somebody crying in the back. She was telling a story, crying and crying. When I look at her, she was not crying. It was the weep sound of metal. It sounded as if she was crying. I'm thinking, what happened to that poor person? When I look around, she was not crying. It was the weep in her voice. Yeah. What time is it? I think we took the needles out.
43.
Yeah. We can take off the needles.
12:43.
How are you doing?
12:43.
It's what?
Oh, Angelina asked, what time is it?
We have a little bit of time. I
Yes.
want to go over your quizzes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, let me take off the needles. Put the needles in this.
Oops. Oops.
Freedom. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so
Ничего.
Идет, знаете,
Это расслабление.
can you all hold on a few more minutes? Yeah. Okay. So, any reflections on the needle? Any?
I can share my experience,
Yeah.
how I felt when you put it in. I felt like tension, and also like when the nerve spot gets kind of like, and then it was just tension, then it subsided, and then I felt some like a mosquito bite, and then it was
Yeah.
just
And then it went away.
nothing. It's just like I didn't feel it anymore.
How do you feel?
Now I feel fine.
Nina, I ask. When you just put it on, I start feeling that the headache is gonna start, just kind of immediately, and then it kind of went away.
So it brought on the headache and
Yeah,
it
it did.
dispersed it.
It did. It did. Kind of immediately, but it's not.
Mhm.
It was not.
Intense.
It was not intense. It was not strong. It was locally,
Yeah.
kind of like local headache right here, and then just, typically when it starts, it's just gonna spread.
Then it went away.
This one is just went away.
Great.
Well, it was,
So you don't have a headache now?
no, but it took about 5 minutes. I
Yeah.
think 3
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Great.
just
So what does the numbers represent? Do we need to put them together to actually have the particular number and see what it means?
Well, Lauren added up the answers and came up with the numbers by letter.
Do we need to add
So
those
we're going to
numbers
go
to
over
have
that
the
in a few
answer?
minutes. Let me just talk a little bit about the personalities and then,
Yes.
or we can go over them now and then talk about what they mean, whatever you prefer. So we talked a little bit about that. This one?
First.
This first. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you notice when I was talking about the elements, we talked about the resonances of the elements, right? The characteristics the elements bring, or they reflect the characteristics of the transformation of chi. So since that happens in people too, like I said, we are part of this whole thing. We are impacted by these transformations of chi. And we get impacted in our personalities. So they determine the constitution and personalities. So when we talk about a wood element personality, you will recognize the wood characteristics in this. It's an authoritative person, strong personality, confident, decisive, commands respect. It's prone to stubbornness. It's overbearing sometimes. It has like the type A traits, the go-getter, let's get things going. It's a highly motivated person, high energy, intense, responsible, good managers, inflexible and controlling sometimes, especially when they're out of balance. Okay. So here are the conditions that the wood personality is prone to. Liver and gallbladder issues. Because the liver and the gallbladder are considered wood organs. Some brain issues, bronchial passages, headaches, blood pressure, neck and shoulder. They can have acid reflux. They can have mood disorders. They tend to experience illness during spring because that's when the wood is mostly active. Nervous system issues, throat, esophagus, stomach, eye disorders, nerve pain, throat, blood pressure, emotions. So people who are wood personalities are more prone to these kind of illnesses. I'm not saying they cannot get others, but they're prone to these, and mostly in the spring. The fire personality is passionate, optimistic, impatient, has an eye for detail, ambitious, does not easily adapt to change because they just want to go and have a good time. Is sociable, does not like being isolated, very sociable people. Excitable, sensitive, it's a quick study, they pick things up very quickly. They're driven, they frustrate quickly, and they're very articulate. They're very good people who can go and maybe talk about something that they're really passionate about. They're good advertising people. They can convince people of how great their cause is and stuff like that. So here are some of the conditions they're prone to. Circulation, heart issues, anxiety, worry, hysteria, nervousness. They can develop mouth ulcers, urinary tract issues, blood pressure, veins, and capillaries issues. They can have problems sleeping, palpitations, stress, neck and shoulder, and bowel movements, bowel problems. So now we're talking about the earth people. They're caring, they're nurturing, they're generous, they're creative, they're very stable, overindulgent, they worry excessively. This is one of the characteristics of earth people. They worry all the time. They can't even sleep at night because they're probably solving in their sleep. Can become resentful, empathetic, easygoing, make friends easily. They're peacemakers. They tend not to be an initiator. They're prone to ruminate, they're generous to a fault, and they're difficult to change. They don't like change. So some of the conditions they can get are digestion, stomach issues, lymphatic system. They can become melancholic. They have ligament issues, blood issues, fluid retention, bloating, tend to experience imbalances during the wet seasons. issues, spleen issues. The stomach and spleen are the earth organs in the body. They can have intestines issues, muscle problems, energy issues. They can have disturbances in their menstrual period, yeast and mood apathy kind of issues. So now let's talk about the metal. These are very interesting people too. They're very methodical. They have to have things done the way they want to, and they plan it out. And you go and tell them to do it differently, they do like it. They want to do it their own way. They're very logical, they're meticulous, they're persistent, motivated by self-improvement, can be critical people, because they are always looking for value, for what's important, what's valuable. And obviously they criticize everything that they don't feel is valuable. They tend to overanalyze, they overextend themselves, they're easily influenced by others. They're analytical, rational, organized, they're deliberate, they're indecisive, obsessive, pessimistic. They try to be very much into faith, into religion, into father figures. And then some of the conditions that come to the issues with the lungs, the larynx, mucous membranes. The lung and the large intestine are the organs of the metal element. Prone to colds and flu, sadness, tend to experience imbalances during autumn when the element is most prominent. Right? They can have issues with the sinuses, intestines, immune system, upper back, skin. Okay, so let's talk about the water. These are very interesting people too. I mean, all of them are. Water people are very wise people. Remember, the water is all the way at the height of yin and the lowest yang. So these are very deep people that will go very deeply inside. They're very receptive, very introspective. They're confident people, they're creative, they're deep thinkers. They're timid at times. One of the emotions is fear, right? So water people can be very fearful. A deep fear inside. I'm not talking about I see a lion, I get afraid, right? That's normal. But it's like it's instilled in the personality, that this deep fear of existence. They can be scattered, sometimes they're unsure of themselves. They're intuitive, enduring, they're cautious, they're very hardworking. They're risk averse, they can get overextended, and can become codependent when they're out of balance. Okay. And some of the conditions that water people can develop: urogenital, the organs of the water element are the kidney and the bladder. So urogenital, kidneys, urethra, bone issues, ovaries, issue with the hormonal system, erectile dysfunction or other erectile issues, fertility issues. Metal is right at water is right in the time of winter, so we could have winter time imbalances. Reproductive system issues, bladder, urinary tract infections, teeth. The teeth, the water element controls the bones, so the teeth can be impacted. Testes, lower back, libido, and premature aging. So the energy that we have in us at birth is usually stored in the kidney area. So as we live, if we don't bring energy into us from the food, the lifestyle, proper emotions, we can actually use up the energy that we're endowed with at birth. So if we live a very bad lifestyle, we can premature aging. We can age prematurely because we're just depleting our reserves. It's like we have reserves, and if we don't, if we're not careful, we can deplete our reserves, and then we can age much faster than we really should age. Okay. So these are just it's a little summary that's very interesting. The water element has an expectation of safety. Remember I said the fear is ingrained in water people? So they want safety, and they perceive danger, and the stress response is fear, even if there's no need to be afraid. The wood, the expectation is get my way. The perception is that they're being blocked, right? They get a lot of frustration, the wood people. And their stress response is anger and frustration. The fire, they want true love. They're true love people. They get hurt very easily because they don't get it all the time. And they get loss of joy when they're stressed. Earth, they want the needs met. The perception is that they're being ignored. They're not getting enough of what they need. And they worry and have a lot of sympathy. And the metal, the expectation is to purify, right? They reach for perfection, they reach for value. They feel that they're getting dismissed, and their stress response is grief or depression. So this is just like a quick overview of the highlights of the characteristics. So now, acupuncture to the rescue. I think we leave it there, yes. Because, so what I want to do is, with the tests, the quizzes that you filled out, the quiz is a quiz that was developed by Dr. Mao Sheng-Yi, and he's one of my teachers at Yosan University where I got my doctorate degree. And this is an attempt to identify what element you are. So based on your answers, we can tell you now if you're what element you are. So maybe after listening to all this, you already know or get a feel for it. But this is from a personality perspective. When you come in my clinic, I diagnose the elements differently. It's more of a clinician's view. But this is like from a personality perspective. So who wants to start? What? Okay, let's go this way. Tatiana, can you start? What is your highest number? A, B, C, D, or E?
A, B, C, D
D?
is 5.
No, D is metal.
She had 5 Ds.
Pardon?
She had 5
5
Ds.
Ds. Yeah,
Oh,
that's metal.
okay. So am I
E-
am I
okay, so
normal?
A is wood. A is wood. B is fire.
You're fabulous.
C is C is.
Oh, okay. So I see. Yes. So my first answer, which is A, is 4. B is
No, we don't need to go through those
Oh.
because
That's just
because
how
we
many
summarize
how
it.
many A's you chose, how many B's you chose, how many C's you chose, how many D's you chose, how many E's you chose. So the one that has the highest number is the one that you're most likely
This one here. I need this number.
That makes sense.
So you had 5 Ds
uh-huh.
and you had 4 A's.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah, that too.
you're metal and wood within.
So it's good.
So metal. Yeah, all of them are good. It's they just tell you,
Everything is good.
they just give you information about your personality.
Uh-huh.
So
and it gives you an insight.
I will have to
into-
make appointment with you to decode this.
Anytime.
So can you repeat what each one is?
Yeah. A is wood, B is fire, C is earth, D is metal, and E is water. Okay, so who goes next? What are your highest?
Wood.
Your A?
Yes, A6.
Okay, so you're a wood personality. So you know the characteristics that we talked
Surprised
about.
me.
Do they sort of match?
That's actually surprised me.
Pardon?
It surprised me.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because, I was actually, when I was, you were
Mhm.
going through all the elements,
Yeah.
I was thinking about myself and the kids.
Yeah.
And my husband too. And I actually made the elements for everybody because I thought about that before actually.
Uh-huh.
And that was just like I was trying to match with what I was thinking with
Yeah.
what you were saying. And I definitely did not place myself to the wood. I placed my one of my twins as a wood. He's definitely a wood. I would like to do that test on him and see what's gonna be. But that was a surprise for me. So
But a lot of
I gotta
times we
analyze
don't
it.
really know who we are, right?
I guess so.
We have an image of ourselves, right?
Yes.
And we think we are this person, and then sometimes we get surprised. Did you?
It is interesting. I am equal A and E.
A and D
And E.
and
alpha.
E.
Yes.
So you're wood and
Water.
which is good. It's water is the mother of wood. Wood is the mother of water. So, I mean the child of water. So you're in that characteristic.
Talking about water.
Which one do you think is stronger, the water or the wood?
I think both equal balanced. I would say so.
That's really good. Yeah. Good. I mean, all of them are good. So don't take it like I'm characterizing
Oh no.
whether you're a good person or not a good person based on that. No, everything's very interesting, right? It's good that we find out about ourselves.
I have fire.
Fire.
And I have a question. Does it have any connection with astrology science? Because in astrology I am fire.
Are you? Well, I did not take time to correlate the two, but in Chinese medicine, this is just one piece. There's a lot of astrology associated to it. There's the planetary input, there's the universal input. So this is like, it's not a comprehensive chart. So this is based on the elements and based on how energy flows. Right?
Very interesting.
Pardon?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mine was metal.
Metal?
Yeah. After you went through all of the personalities, that's what I thought it was too.
Yeah.
Same.
Metal?
Earthy.
Okay. And you feel that you're.
Yeah, I'm very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. What if you get, very close between the two, not conflicting elements, but that self kind of, so like wood and metal? That
Uh-huh.
sounds a little bad. I mean,
Yeah.
wood and water sounds,
Really
Kinda
good, right. Yeah,
harmon-
they support each other.
it's a harmony there, right?
Yes.
But wood and metal sounds kind of like,
They're
ay,
Yeah.
ay.
So,
What do you do?
yeah, so that's okay because we need all of the elemental qualities, right? But what happens in this situation, you have to be careful that one doesn't get too out of control because if metal gets really out of control, it'll overpower your wood. You know what I'm saying? So you have to keep the balance between the wood and the metal.
Okay.
Yeah. Because otherwise you can have a lot of conflicts internally.
I see.
Yeah.
Right here it says good, it's balanced. Water would be good. I'm like, okay, pretty
Yeah.
much the same for the wood and metal.
Yeah.
Is that not a good
What is that?
situation?
So actually it's really good that you have the qualities of each You have to just make sure that they stay in balance so you don't get overpowered by the metal. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, that was really good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Gigi. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to leave you with one little bit of information, bit of wisdom.
Wisdom, yes,
To
wisdom.
heal, in order to heal, we must cultivate our authenticity. Like, try to find who are we really, and be that person in the world. And knowing your element and understanding the elements gives you a very in-depth view of what it is you need to cultivate, what it is you need to work on, what it is that your constitution is, your constitution factor, and how you can contribute to the world based on your gifts. Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
It was fun.
It was very nice meeting everybody.
It was very nice.